Welcome to the Dom Sub Devotion podcast. Every episode of Dom Sub Devotion is an authentic reflection of our real life in a loving 24/7 DS marriage. If you crave the passion and intensity of a power exchange dynamic inside of a deeply loving and intimate relationship, you've found the right place. You can always find more from us in the show notes and at infinitedevotion.com. Thank you for listening.
Today's episode, we are going to dive into talking about feminine beauty and the beauty practices of the feminine and what this has been for you. And this conversation was really sparked by an email that you received from someone that you used to follow on Instagram. And I'm just going to let you read that email because it kind of speaks for itself. And then I want to just let our conversation go to your reflections on it. So
this email, I want to give credit to her. It's from Jessica Ash, and her Instagram handle is Jessica Ash Wellness. And while I don't always read all my emails, the title of this one caught my eye. And the title was, "Has the Crunchy Community Missed the Mark?" And I'm like, crunchy community? What are we talking about? But clearly I'm missing a little bit of maybe what's going around right now because I didn't even know exactly what that meant.
Well, and you don't consume as much social media content as you used to.
Yeah, clearly I didn't say that, but that's what I meant. Like, I don't know what's circulating anymore, kind of the trending stuff. But this email really, really spoke to me. And so I want to read it. It's long, so stick with me, but it's so good. She says, "When did being crunchy become being crusty? When did we arrive at the conclusion that we can't shower more than once a week in order to protect our skin's microbiome? When did we completely rid our lives of any type of scented product, even though scented responsibly? When did we stop wearing makeup? When did we stop wearing the styles of clothing that we love just because they don't come in 100% cotton or linen? When did we stop washing our dirty hair and start spending years training it to go longer between washes to no avail, might I add? In an effort to remove all of the quote-unquote bad things from our homes and our beauty care routines, and for some of us even our clothing, we've lost the truth that beauty is an art. And while none of these habits are wrong necessarily, I don't think they are always in line with the feminine's deepest desire. Because as ones who carry feminine essence, one of our deepest desires is to practice beauty. And I'm not talking about the modern beauty's industry idea of beauty, which is really just a bunch of shallow vanity. The one that tells us that we're incomplete and we need all of these enhancements in order to be good enough. The one that brainwashes us to believe that female beauty only looks a certain way. The one that takes our sovereignty away and makes us a slave to it. I'm talking about the type of beauty that has been practiced for thousands of years. The one that you can feel in your soul, but can't quite put your finger on why. The traditional beauty that focuses on celebrating our own unique features. The traditional beauty that doesn't cover anything up or play pretend, but instead highlights what is real. The traditional beauty that places an emphasis on creativity, practice, and ritual, 3 vital parts of our feminine needs. The traditional beauty that's actually at the heart of the feminine's survival. Because biologically, to survive and be protected, we needed to be desired. And to be desired, we needed to feel seen. And it's because of this that beauty has always been a practice for the feminine. It's sort of like this blueprint that we have that shows us investing in our own beauty impacts us energetically. Whether that means smelling good, taking a shower, dressing up and accessorizing, doing our hair and makeup, or performing our skin and hair care routines. Making ourselves feel desirable to ourselves is an important part of the feminine. It's a way to connect with ourselves, to connect with our instincts and our intuition. I would even say that taking care of ourselves is a form of female meditation. But our modern world has made it very difficult for us to care for ourselves in the way that we deeply, deeply desire. And so we often get very defensive or try to convince ourselves that we don't need to shower for a week. Because really, we don't have time to take a shower and to take care of ourselves every day. We've set up our lives in such a way that we haven't prioritized our own self-care. And instead of being victims of that and allowing that victimhood to come out in jealousy, envy, or defensiveness, we need to take a step back. We need to realize that the modern world has convinced us that so many other things are more important, when in reality, taking care of ourselves and putting beauty into practice is important too. And instead of telling ourselves that we don't have time for beauty or that it's not a priority, maybe we can look at it as sort of a wellspring. You see, when a woman feels nourished, physically, mentally, and spiritually, everything else can pour from that state. Everything that we as women do when we're in alignment with our feminine energy pours from abundance. So, it really begins with defining what taking care of ourselves and looking and feeling good means to us, because this is going to have a different meaning to everyone. We can all use our simple devotional beauty practices like a megaphone, highlighting how thankful we are for our bodies, our faces, and our unique features.
And just watching you read that, I'm watching your body break out in goosebumps. I'm watching like emotion move through you.
Yeah, I felt the tears wanting to come.
Why do you think that message is so moving to you?
Well, like she said in there, you know, she says it's part of our feminine essence. And there are so many things that I start to feel, and it's the goosebumps that come, and it's the emotion, the tears that want to come, and it's just this feel in my body. And I can't fully always explain it. But when I experience that in response to those words, I know it's truth. And so for me, it hits at a deep desire inside of me. That's all I can really speak to, at a deepest part of my essence that wants to be expressed.
One of the things she's really getting at there, at least especially in the first part of that message, is this tendency away from self-care in the name of being healthy. And I know that's a battle that you have fought with the desire to, and our mutual desire to be as healthy and to take the best care of ourselves that we can. So I would just love to hear you share a little bit about what you've had, this battle, this internal battle that you've fought around not doing destructive, unhealthy things to your body, but then also in the process sometimes doing unhealthy, destructive things to your mind.
So, I started using hair products and makeup products back when I was a teenager. And I would go to, I don't know, Kmart, Walmart, Target once.
When you were feeling fancy, you'd
They
go
were
to Target.
around. Well, it was more about Targets were a little bit farther away. So, anyway, a store like that. And I would go buy some eyeshadow and eyeliner and foundation. Like, that's kind of what I started with. and just kind of figuring it out for myself on what I wanted to do. I really don't even remember what my early years of some of that stuff was. And I have a curiosity, like, how old was I and how did I even start doing this and figuring it out? I don't even know. Anyway, so, and I started highlighting my hair. Yep, bleach, all over my scalp and hair, and never thought twice about it. The circulating this stuff is bad for you was not there. So then did all sorts of things. Took care of myself in the best ways I knew possible. Fast forward to when I started on my own, what I'm going to call personal development journey, I started inputting a lot of information around health and wellness. And wow, is there so many different things on what is good and what is bad, if we're going to classify it, and what's good for your body and what's bad. And so I would consume information and I would consume information, and I started to feel tension and fear. And it was like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do anymore, because I'm trying to get away from using these quote unquote toxic products on my skin and my face and my hair, but yet to try to find the same kind of products that work, the same color of lipstick I want to wear, or eyeshadow I want to wear, or hair product that helps my hair look and feel its best. All of a sudden, I was super overwhelmed with, what do I choose? And that totally came from my perfectionistic tendencies. And I was just all of a sudden now in a new state of fear, because I wanted to do it right. I didn't want to harm my body. I wanted to live my best life possible. And so there was a point where I kept coming to you like, help me, help me here, help me there. And I'm laughing because I'm just kind of thinking back to myself, not even completely remembering what that was really like, because I was just caught up in my own experience and I could only see myself to the extent that I just could at the time. And I know that it was almost as if every time I brought something else to you, you would have this, it's not a reaction, but like this like split second response, like in the best way possible. It wasn't like negative at all. It was just like, here we go again. Is she gonna believe me this time?
The thing that I watched happen was earlier in our relationship, before you inputted all of this information, you didn't think twice about it. There was no stress around, like, you might say something like, yeah, they say it's not great to use a lot of heat on your hair, but I like how my hair looks with a flat iron, so I do it anyway. Even that, you didn't have stress about it. It was just like, yeah. It was only once you started reading, learning, scrolling, that you started to have all of these conflicting messages now present in your system. And then it went from doing your best to overwhelm and driven by fear. And this is one of the really toxic things that happens, I think, especially to women, because of the tendencies towards fear that are maybe even a little bit bigger for women than men, but both. The problem in consuming so much social media content, because you end up with all of this conflicting information in your head. And now, like, I watched you go from something that didn't add stress to your life and that actually added joy and pleasure to your life, as she talks about in that email, like the fun of getting yourself ready. Like, there's something that is remarkably magnetic and sexy to me watching you get yourself ready.
Even that has changed for me.
Putting on music, you dance, you wiggle around while you're doing your makeup, while you're doing your hair. And that lost some of its joy for a while when you got so wrapped up in fear.
Mm-hmm.
Because now you had, I think, whether it was conscious or it was deeper under the surface, everything you were doing, like you're putting on eyeshadow, was like, is this the most perfect eyeshadow that I can be putting on, or am I poisoning myself?
Mm-hmm.
Is this ruining my hair, or is it making it look nice? And that here we go again thing when you would come to me was like just me watching you get destroyed by fear and stress and anxiety around these things that didn't need to be that. Because what I continued to do was to help you make the best choices possible without expecting perfection.
Mm-hmm.
And this goes quite a ways back in our podcast where we talked about doming yourself. Really what you would do is say, no, your way isn't, like, that isn't good enough. I'm going to be way more worried about this than you are and control myself and not follow the guidance that I was giving you.
Yeah. And that energy of fear in my body is not helpful at all. And so, when you think about all the different things that I would do, from washing my hair to washing my body to putting eye makeup on and lotion on and foundation and all of those different things, and if there's this underlying fear present, because unconsciously it's like, is this perfect? Is this good for me? Or is this bad for me? Am I harming myself?
Yeah,
And
the black and white of good for me, bad for me.
right. And having that present in my system is not helpful at all. It's very destructive.
And so this is a place where you did lean into me, and eventually I was able to break back through that fear, in part by you consuming less social media, and in part by helping you recognize how that the fear and the stress that you were putting yourself through was far more poisonous than anything you could ever put on your body.
Right.
So it has been fun watching you reclaim the joy of taking care of yourself.
Yeah, and I like how she even labeled it as it can be like a meditation.
Yeah, talk a little bit about that.
So I never thought about that before, but I have to be so attentive and present with myself. For example, when I'm putting on my eye makeup to get it to look the way I want to. So I have my music on, which was the same as before, which is a form of eros for me. And it just always just fuels fun and aliveness in me. And so when I'm standing there close up with my magnifying mirror to try to get my eyes to look the way I want them to, I have to be fully present. Like, there's times where you'll walk into the bathroom and I stop doing it because I can't be present with what I'm doing and give you my attention. So that in and of itself, alongside the feeling excited and feeling the beauty and the self-love in that practice, whether it's shaving my legs or putting my makeup on or doing my hair. And it's really letting myself feel the bigness of all of what that beauty can be inside of me, and therefore fuel into you and feeling alive. It's a much different practice for me now because, for one, I don't have the fear, but I also can be present, and I also love myself in a way that I didn't before. Rewind me, and I would rush through all of that stuff. Once in a while, when I had the space where it was like, all right, we're doing date night, go take your time and get ready, and it would be endless time, I wouldn't rush it. I would be way more attentive to what I was doing and have more fun with it when it wasn't like trying to quick do my hair and makeup before I go to work. And so the whole journey of coming more into myself, coming more into acceptance and love, and just dropping the fear has brought so much more joy and aliveness. And therefore, I feel myself just so much more playful and fun with you.
One of the things that you read, she was talking about how all of these beauty practices are really about feeling desirable to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So, to teach the guys about this, because this is an important thing, I think, for men to understand the value of creating the time and space for your woman to have this time to take care of herself and to invest in looking her best. Not in small part due to the fact that you get to enjoy it,
Mm-hmm.
but even more so because there's something really special that happens when I know that you feel sexy to yourself.
Yes.
So tell the guys about why having the time and the space to really be present with this, whatever you're doing to take care of yourself and to beautify yourself, why that makes you feel more desirable to yourself.
I love that question or invitation, I guess. I have a few different ways that my mind wants to go with this. So, for one thing, this was something that you always brought acceptance to for me in ways that I didn't realize I wasn't for myself. And you never criticized me for going to get my hair done. You never, you were the one who has encouraged me sometimes to go get my toes and my nails done. Now, that's not as much of my thing of having my nails done. Like, I know a lot of women love getting their nails done. I personally don't enjoy going and sitting there and having somebody else do them. I love the look of that. I don't enjoy the process. And so it doesn't bring me as much excitement.
Yeah. Well, and that's a part of what she said in there too, right? This is you doing what feels good to you and what helps you feel good about you.
Right. And so, like I just shared before, it would be date night, and you would create the space in my day so I could go get myself feeling sexy. And, for a while, I would do all of my own purchases around makeup, but you helped me shift into even abundance around these things and not judging them. Because what I didn't realize was I was also judging myself for doing these things. And so you brought this acceptance to me and this encouragement to me. And that's only gotten bigger. And that's also been a crucial part of the process for me in really finding the joy in the practices of my own beauty and not feeling like, well, just thinking about where I was going to go with that, there was a point where it was like I didn't feel good about myself, and so I had to wear makeup or I had to do these things. Even that is a much different thing for me. And now I get to celebrate myself and enhance my own beauty. And so I believe this is in a lot of women, and maybe some of them have just set it completely aside, where if we all had our men being like, honey, spend whatever money you want. Go get your hair done and feel good about yourself, or, whatever it is for her in the way she dresses and the way she just presents her own natural beauty, because we all have it. So how can we enhance it? And maybe it's getting some help on how do I do this for myself, And so I've always deeply appreciated the way that you've encouraged me there.
Abundance is an interesting and important topic here. Because, first of all, a lot of times when we hear the word abundance, everyone's mind goes straight to money.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that plays out here too, because I would watch you stress out over, do I buy the $10 version of this thing or the $28 version of this thing that I really want?
Mm-hmm.
And I'd be like, buy the $28 one. It's going to last you 9 months or 2 years or whatever. Like, it's such a small expense over time. But then you would go looking for it on sale and try to find coupons. And like, there was a certain diminishment of your own worthiness of spending money on things that helped you feel good about yourself.
Absolutely, there was.
So that's one way that I've encouraged you in abundance.
Mm-hmm.
And it really is a small thing, right? In the way that I look at it, there are a lot of places, if we needed to save money on something, we could do it elsewhere and not worry about spending $10 more on something where that $10 is an expense that is spread out over a year. Like, I'll not get guac on my Chipotle.
Yeah, that's
a couple times.
That scarcity mindset permeated every part of my life.
But there's abundance beyond money.
Mm-hmm.
There's abundance of energy. There's abundance of joy. There's abundance of pleasure. All of these things matter the same, and they really are all the same thing. And what I witness in you is the more that you are taking care of yourself and that you're feeling good about yourself, the more of all of this abundance is naturally present in you. It flows out of you. I think she used the word wellspring in that email that you read. So this kind of begs the next question. Feeling good about yourself isn't directly tied to how you look.
Right.
But at the same time, taking care of yourself does help you feel better about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you, for yourself, navigate that internal kind of paradox between, I don't need to put on makeup to be pretty, but also I want to put on makeup to feel pretty?
Yeah, that's an interesting one, because I feel like there's so many factors that play into it. So I have been told numerous times by you, but also by clients, once in a while on camera, I don't have it like my makeup done. And I've heard that it's like, oh my gosh, you are just really pretty without makeup. And for me, to be honest, I love having my eyes done. I love accentuating my eyes. I feel like I know how to make them pop. And I like that. And I love having mascara on my eyelashes, you know? So there are times also then where what my hair looks like plays into it. And let's be real, what time of the month I'm in inside just has its own, what's the word I'm trying to say? Like, mind? I don't know, like energy of things. And
You feel differently about yourself as your hormones are different throughout the month.
yeah, and then how tan I am, you know, like even that plays into it. Like, what I noticed was over summertime, I was way more, I felt better about my natural beauty with just a little bit of mascara on than in winter when I would get pale white. Be like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm just like washed out. I just didn't feel as pretty. And I've always heard from you, no matter what, that I'm beautiful. And I love that. But I would also sometimes say, but I need to feel it about myself. And so I appreciate what you say, but I also want to feel it. And I kind of want to take a little bit of a tangent, but not really here, because once in a while I will try something different with like my makeup. And you are so attentive to me and what I look like, but even you don't always notice if I did something different. And I don't have a problem with that. Like, I'm not bringing it up from a like, how do you not notice? But what I think is true, so correct me if I'm wrong, is that men just don't notice all of the fine details the way we as women do, especially when we're the ones doing the work, right?
Well, here, I'll answer that one for the guys. Because when you do something different, you know what you did different and you are paying attention to it.
Totally.
When I look at you, I see sexy wife. I see pretty girl. I see hot chick in front of me. And I'm not looking at the specific like difference in like what you did with eyeliner. Where you might be paying attention to that because you know you did it differently.
Yeah.
So like a lot of things, when I tell you that you are harder on yourself than anyone else is on you, because you are focusing on and zooming in on one little thing, this is kind of like that in a different way, where when you're more focused on the one thing, I'm seeing the whole picture. And so it's easy to not see one little difference that might be big to you, but is a minor change in the big picture.
Right. And so the reason I wanted to bring that up was because when I like speaking to the men, when you said before that you kind of like men look at women and you just kind of see the beauty as a whole, whereas we can really get fixated on sometimes the things that we don't like about ourselves, or the thing that just didn't turn out as well that day and now it's affecting our mood. And so, you know, that's its own journey to try to work out of, so we're not at the whims of all of that, but we are still women and we are still feel, and we do still feel, and how we feel about ourselves just changes and fluctuates, you know. And so like working with that and just being open to receiving the woman in her fullness in that is really important, I think.
Also, here a tip for the guys: when your woman is being hard on herself, or when she is getting down on herself or criticizing herself, don't try to talk her out of it. The way that she feels in that moment is real. And you may disagree, and you certainly have the right to disagree with her assessment of herself. But if you have some empathy for the way that she feels about herself, while disagreeing with her and telling her that she's batshit crazy for not thinking she's hot. But also recognizing that she does feel that way will get you a lot farther than just trying to dismiss the way that she feels.
Yes, I want to add my own opinion on what would feel good to receive in that way.
Please do.
Is if I'm like, oh my gosh, like, my, I'm going to use clothing, like, my ass looks big in these pants today.
Well, how about we use a real life example of my hair doesn't look perfect?
Well,
There's
that's
one funny little piece of hair right here that
my
won't lay down, and everyone's
Yes.
going to look at it and think that I'm.
Yeah, the hair's been a thing because, like, I did have a stylist. I think it was her fault. After I bleached my hair, and I had hair coming out when I washed my hair that day and my hair's never been the same. And so that's been its own journey for me of like really trying to get my hair to grow back. And part of the reason why I was trying to stop bleaching it. Anyway, yes, great example. But in that moment where I'm just feeling like, about anything, about the way I look, if you come up to me and say, you know what, honey, I see that you feel that way, but I want you to know that I really think that you are beautiful today. Instead of, you're crazy or you're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It's just empathy, and then tell me how you feel about me. Because for me, that's like, I can recognize how I'm being hard on myself, and it's easier for me to lay it down versus sometimes have that ego just flare up and then like feel even worse about it. That's just my personal experience there.
There are also pieces of beauty and self-care that very much map into these dominant submissive dynamics, to the point that in our contract, one of the values that we have is beauty.
Mm-hmm.
And that is not just for like me telling you that you have to do your makeup every day.
Right.
Although that is a rule that I want you to put yourself together every day, early in the day,
Mm-hmm.
because I know how it helps you feel about yourself.
Which, let's be real, has not happened as much when it's super hot outside. So there is room for like flowing with that. Like in our dynamic, that isn't completely like rigid.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not like get all dressed up and get your makeup done and then go work out.
Right. And that's why I don't assign a time to it, but
Right.
the rule is that as early in the day as possible,
Mm-hmm.
because I want you to enjoy it and I want to be able to enjoy it for as much of the day as possible.
Yeah.
But the value of beauty is bigger than that. It's the desire to be in beautiful surroundings. It's the desire to enjoy beautiful spaces,
Mm-hmm.
to prioritize that because we value that.
Right.
And so that's just one way that this beauty thing wraps into the dominant submissive dynamic. Another one is the ritual aspect of it.
Yeah, before you go there, I just want to share something in response to that one too, because also it is a more feminine thing to care about what your house looks like and spend money on decor and beautifying your space, beautifying your bedroom, making it sexy. And men, I'm speaking for a lot of us women. I'm not speaking for everyone, but maybe it is everyone if we're willing to actually see this in ourselves. For me, I like to feel good. And I feel good in beautiful spaces. I feel good when my house is in order and organized and all of that. It does affect how I feel too. And again, this is one area where I acted like I didn't matter in that. and I like just put it at a low priority until like I've done some of this work to realize like, oh, there's another way I've acted like I don't matter and I don't need anything and I'm not worthy of having my house look the way I want to, or spending the money on the furniture that I want, or, you know, whatever. And so I think that that also carries over into, you know, maybe some conflict in relationships on what do we spend money on and taking time to do this and all of that. So, yeah.
It's worthy of being valued as something that's important to you.
Yeah.
And as the dominant is the one responsible for creating structure and for creating order, if that's something that's important to you, then it has to be important to me. If I don't value, or at least give value to the things that matter to you, then how are you ever going to feel cared for enough to really let go and surrender and submit to me?
Yeah.
So, again, I have to put the caveat on this because some guys will hear this and think, well, what, I'm just supposed to give her everything she wants before I get anything I want. That's not what I'm saying at all. It's actually quite the opposite, because if I'm just giving you everything you want all the time, now you're in charge.
Right.
This doesn't mean I say no to you just to say no to you. I had someone bring that up in a coaching session the other day. Like, I wish I had it in me to be meaner to her because I know that that would work. Like, that wouldn't do anything except perpetuate more like disconnection over the long run. This isn't about just saying no to you to prove that I'm in charge. It's about prioritizing and looking at the big picture, but also making sure that I care enough about what matters to you and not just what matters to me, so that you know that you're being heard.
Exactly. All of that. And it might come at like, if I came to you and said something like, I want the Dyson Airwrap for my hair. Or maybe it's, I want a new couch. And maybe that's not in the budget right now. But you hear me, you receive me, and you, in my fullness there, and you make your own considerations, and you might come back to me and say, you know what? I received that, but that's not in our budget right now, or, you know, whatever that is. And for me, I would still feel heard. I would like still feel received, even if I can't have what I want right now.
Yeah. It's more about showing you that you matter, but also there is something really powerful in being able to contain that desire too.
Yeah.
To say no when there's a good reason to say no, not just to prove that I'm in charge, but to actually set that edge based on the big picture. You had this, you know, as we've been working together with your hair after the big hair debacle a couple of years ago, we've been really working on growing your hair back out and all of the thinness that developed because of having it burned off in the middle. And it just, there's been a lot to help get your hair back to being the way that you like it. One of the things was you realized that you wanted and needed a better hairdryer. You brought that to me and you asked me, like, here's a few that I like. Will you please decide which one would be best for me? And I did. And then I said, and I want to get it for you, but I can't right now because it wasn't cheap. And we also were in the middle of a bunch of other stuff, and it wasn't in the budget right then.
Yep.
So I told you I wanted to get it for you for your birthday. But even that meant because of the budget, I had to buy it for you for your birthday a little bit late. And that was the way that played out. So I share that example to say, like, to help you, to guide you, I offered you help around making the decision so you didn't have to get stuck in overthinking and overanalyzing.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to give you what you wanted, and also had to be realistic with it.
Right.
So, onto the ritual side of this. There is a ritualistic sort of nature to the way that you take care of yourself. Even down to the order that you do things in.
Mm-hmm.
How does that kind of go into the meditative self-care side of things, being able to follow some sort of a ritual for yourself?
Well, what comes up for me initially in hearing you say that is just the presence and attention that I have with myself. So I've heard this referenced before, something to the point of like, why so much good thinking happens in the shower. And like, we're like, okay, we can take a shower together once in a while, but for the most part, we shower alone. And for some people, that's maybe the only alone time that they get.
Especially without technology in their hands or distractions.
Exactly. And so, well, at least I don't know of like a phone that you would want to bring in the shower yet. So please don't develop that. Let's claim the alone time that we have.
We're staking a claim to the shower. The shower is going to be the last vestige of technology freedom. We get to be Luddites when we're in the shower, and that's all.
Yes, yes. But as I've deepened into myself, the energy that I bring to myself has changed. And so I referenced before shaving my legs. When I'm shaving my legs, I do my best to always be present with what I'm doing and try not to be lost in a thought, and give my full presence to myself in that way. And for me, that is a meditative ritual. And also not rushing through it and not bringing the energy of like, oh, I hate doing this. I've learned to flop those on its head and look at it for what it is. I'm loving my body. I'm taking care of myself. And I'm making myself look good for you. So all of those things are just amazing fuel for me in what I get to do in these ways that I take care of myself every day. Now, do I fully do my hair and makeup and wash it every day? No, I don't. So what it is going to look differently, but I can still bring the same energy to it all.
And that is the art of beauty, which is another thing I love from that email you read, talking about your self-care as art and being artistic with yourself.
Yeah.
Because art in itself it's imperfect, and it is a creation, right? It's a creative practice.
Yeah. And, this even goes over to clothing and jewelry. And one thing that stands out to me is when I see way older women than me still putting their makeup on, doing their hair, dressing nice, having the jewelry on, like that just speaks to me. I notice it. And then there's plenty of them who kind of go the opposite way, where they've lost connection to expressing themselves in that way. And for some people it's, well, multiple reasons why that can happen. But I'm drawn to it when I see it on other women.
And clothing is another expression of this same thing, right? We've talked a lot about makeup here and hair here and those sorts of practices, but dressing yourself is the same thing. Mm-hmm. Choosing clothes that make you feel good, like having clothes that make you feel good. For you, you want to have lots of options because in the moment you don't know what's going to make you feel like you're going to feel the best in.
Right.
When we finish here, I'm taking you out on a fun date afternoon and evening, and we're going to go upstairs and pick out what it is that you're going to wear for the afternoon and evening. And it's good to have options.
Right.
The last little topic I want to touch on here is the concept of enhancing natural beauty versus fakeness. Mm-hmm. So, to you, what's the difference there in the feel between those two things? Because even in doing makeup, you can make yourself look very fake, or you can enhance natural beauty, at least in the way that a guy looks at it.
Right. I have a repulsion to fake.
I've noticed.
I do. I really do. And so, for example, several years ago now, you came to me. You love my eyes done, and you love like prominent mascara on me. And so you're like, I'm going to have you start getting your eyelashes done. And I was like, oh,
like lash extensions.
Yeah, sorry. Lash extensions. And at first I was like, oh, I felt it. I was like, oh my God, I don't want to be fake. But I went along with it because it did sound exciting at the same time. And so all I had to do was reconcile my own feel of, is this being fake to me? Because that's all I'm talking about. It's my opinion, right? Or
that's how you feel about yourself.
Exactly. Or is this enhancing my beauty? Well, I quickly realized that it did enhance my beauty. And I loved them.
And it can be, and a couple of times the girl who did yours did go a little overboard.
Yeah.
And then it started to feel fake.
Yep. There were, because she just kind of put on whatever extensions sometimes maybe that she had, and there were like no questions asked. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, those look different. What the heck?
I remember one time you said you sat down and she's like, you want to do the cat eye, right?
I'm like, what's that?
No, thank you.
Right. And so eventually, we had me stop doing them, and wow, had I lost eyelashes. And I hated my eyelashes after that because
took a little while for them to get back to their normal life.
Yeah, because what I realized was like it was tearing them out. They stayed shorter. Same thing with my nails. That's partly why I don't like getting my nails done, is because they just get destroyed. And then I feel like I'm in a reconstruction mode for a while. And so now I try to play around with different mascaras and eyelash curlers and that kind of thing. Trying out the castor oil on my eyelashes to see if that actually helps. We'll see. I haven't hit a month of using it yet. But anyway, back to the fakeness. For me, I don't know. There just is a desire to have it be real for me. And I really don't know why that is or where that comes from, but I just have a repulsion to fake beauty stuff. And I know there's lots of enhancements out there, and I may get to a point where I'm like, I bet that could help me. But
it's like, right to change my mind later, but right now.
Right. But I don't use any of those enhancements. And I actually was asked not quite 10 years ago now by a woman when I was at a nice gym. She's like, "Do you do Botox?" And I was like, "What the heck? I'm only in my 30s. Like, what are you talking about?" Because she had just done her first treatment and she was younger than me. I think I was probably 34, 35. And I was like, "Are you serious? Like, the women are doing that at this age?" I just equated it to something older because I can see how certain things can help our skin stay looking a certain way longer. But for me, I look in the mirror every day knowing I'm a day older than I was yesterday, according to this time thing that we live in. And I want to meet myself where I'm at and love myself every day. And it's been a journey. Like, we've already shared the ways that I haven't loved the reality, but I really, really strive for true authenticity and to accept myself even as I age with what beauty comes forth through me in this human body.
Growing old with grace
Yeah.
is beauty in its own respect. And there's beauty in the physical, there's also beauty in the spirit. And beauty in the spirit is something that is ageless and that actually grows with time.
Yes.
And that's where I've really watched this, and I've grown very proud of you in all of this, is the way that you take care of yourself has gone from trying to present a version of yourself that was better than how you felt about yourself to really being a reflection of how you feel about yourself. And that change is really only noticeable in the energy behind the makeup, the energy underneath the hair. It's not in the enhancement. It's in how you feel about yourself, and you can't fake that.
Yep. And the more me I've become, the more I feel good about myself. The more beautiful I feel in my own body.
Thank you for sharing with so much honesty and vulnerability about what this is for you. And I really am proud of you for how much you've learned to love yourself.
Thank you. You've been an essential piece of it.
And thank you to all of you for listening and watching. We appreciate you deeply. Thank you once again.
Yes. Thanks once again for being here with us.